Hi, it's Rex Bolt. The Zodiac Killer was a very compelling presence on the Bay Area scene in the late 1960s. He was scary, and part of the reason was A, he was never apprehended, and B, he would write letters, threatening letters to the authorities, but mainly the San Francisco Chronicle. I'm sorry, mainly in the newspaper, San Francisco Chronicle, a little bit the Examiner, and I believe the Vallejo newspaper as well. But his target seemed to be the Chronicle, and at one point he threatened the lead reporter on the story, Paul Avery. And I think Avery, for a period of time, had to either go underground or have a bodyguard, or I think he actually carried a weapon, carried a gun. But in any case, the Zodiac committed 4 known crimes. And I believe one was at the end of 1968, December 68 in Vallejo, and then 3 during 1960, or I think that was Benicia was the first one, near Vallejo, the East Bay, across the bridge from San Francisco, across the Bay Bridge from San Francisco. And the second was in Vallejo in 1969, and then later in 69, there was another one at Lake Berryessa, which is in Napa County. And the final one was in San Francisco in a residential neighborhood, fancy residential neighborhood called Presidio Heights, where he shot a cab driver. He booked a ride with a cab driver, apparently. They're not sure, but apparently hailed a cab who was intending to go somewhere else. And the cab picked him up, and then when he let him off at his destination, he shot the cab driver. And to add to it, he ripped off part of the cab driver's shirt and then would send in bloody little patches of the shirt to the newspaper to confirm that it was indeed he who was writing the threatening letters. And so it was a scary character, especially if you grew up with him, which I did. I was a teenager then in San Francisco, and you thought about this guy quite a bit. He was never caught. There were several other crimes that are potential Zodiac crimes, but these were the confirmed ones that the authorities really believe are attributed to the Zodiac. And out of these 4, there were 7 victims. 5 of them died. 2 of them survived. And so right now we're at the 50th anniversary of the first one, and nothing has happened, but there have been advances in DNA so significant that as we speak, they are testing 2 of the envelopes that he mailed to the newspapers back in the late 1960s. 2 of the envelopes where he made threats. And what they're testing is the stamps, the glue behind the stamps, and the glue on the envelopes themselves, to see if they can miraculously come up with any saliva cells that they can then turn into a DNA profile. And they are also testing the letters themselves for what they now call touch DNA, and something they didn't used to be able, something was science fiction maybe 25 years ago, but now they can possibly pick up touch DNA if somebody shed any skin cells, like microscopic skin cells, when they touched a piece of paper. And so every amateur sleuth who's been following the Zodiac for a long time kind of has their fingers crossed. Although some of them, I believe, don't want it to be solved through DNA. The amateurs, excuse me, often would rather have it solved through circumstantial evidence, or maybe have it not solved, is my kind of cynical view. Have it not solved, and it continues like a puzzle. Bits and pieces of evidence, and then they have new suspects and this and that. But it will be interesting to see if they can come up with anything. There was a guy not too long ago in Cleveland, an unknown man who had changed his identity, and law enforcement was looking at him. The U.S. Marshal's office got involved, thinking there must have been a reason why he completely changed his identity, and that he might have committed a crime. And they even thought at one point he might have been the Zodiac. But the point being, to figure out who that guy was, all they needed was an old DNA sample when he'd gone in for some surgery years ago, and the sample had degraded quite a bit, but they were only able to obtain a 7% profile off of from that sample. But with the incredible advances in computer technology, the computer then was able to sequence the other 93% to give them a 100% profile that they could then enter into GED match. And GED match is a pretty amazing discovery. And we'll get into that. Okay.